Good afternoon and welcome to the great state of Texas. I'm your host, Ichabod Slice, and this is Biologyzing, Caddo Lake in eastern Texas. World renowned for being Texas's only natural lake, even though it's not. So sit back, relax, strap on your saddles and boots, and let's do some biologizing. Okay, so then I guess the name of the ecosystem here is a Bald Cypress Swamp. And that's because the dominant plant here, or the dominant tree that is basically taking up way over 99% of the canopy is the bald cypress, which is right here in front of me, the bald cypress Taxodium distichum. And this is a very common tree throughout much of the southeastern United States, you know, starting from eastern Texas, going basically all the way, you know, towards the East Coast and everything. A classic tree of swamp systems, and this is a true swamp. So if you don't know what the true definition of a swamp is, it's basically a wetland area where the dominant canopy is composed of trees. And the bald cypress is one of those classic trees in American swamps and everything. Notice it's got those pretty sizable buttresses which extend down to the sediment floor underneath the water. And you know, that obviously aids in you know, support of the tree, keeping it upright throughout its life and everything. You also notice that there's some little nubs kind of sticking up out of the water. Here's some better ones right here. So, you know, living in an aquatic environment, basically underneath the water is relatively anoxic. So there's not a lot of oxygen that can get into these trees right here if this water, if it didn't have these nubs essentially. So these nubs are basically root systems that kind of pop up back out of the water. So the roots obviously go down into the soil underneath the water, but because it's anoxic there, those roots will pop back up. And I think what the locals call them, they call them knees, trees' knees. And basically that's a way for them to get oxygen so they can do all the other cellular respiration processes that all organisms need to do. If you didn't know, plants also will metabolize oxygen, or they need oxygen for metabolism so they can build up proteins, you know, replicate DNA, all that stuff. Photosynthesis is just a way of them getting food and everything, creating the sugars, but they need to burn those sugars and all that stuff. Anyway, yeah, so they got these knees, which are essentially like aerial roots, kind of similar to mangroves that you would find out in the ocean marine systems and everything like that. But yeah, this is just a way for them to cope in an anoxic environment, or at least their roots being in an anoxic environment. Doesn't the sound of blasting country music make nature just that much better? Anyway, so the second most common plant that I'm seeing out here is all this stuff that's growing epiphytic on the bald cypress, and it's this right here. This is Tillandsia usneoides. I think that's how you say it, right? Usneoides. Anyway, so it is a plant. It's not a lichen as like what other people have described it as. It's in the Bromeliaceae family, which is the family of bromeliads and pineapples. And many representatives of the bromeliads, particularly in the Tillandsia genus, grow epiphytic on trees, not just out here in the southeastern US, but you know, in the tropical areas, South America, Central America, and everything like that. But yeah, this one just grows epiphytic. It's found, it's evolved a nice home being epiphytic on these trees and everything. Pretty humid out here, so I'm pretty sure that's how it gets its water, you know, basically soaking up the humidity that's in the air. But yeah, it's just one of those organisms that adds to the backdrop of the imagination of anybody that's thinking about what swamps look like in the southeastern US. And the third most common plant that I'm seeing is another tree, which I'm sitting underneath right here. This is Planara aquatica, or the water elm tree in the family Ulmaceae. Yeah, it just so happens to be another one of those trees that are pretty well adapted to these swampy ecosystems. And you see that one back there. That one's pretty big, and it's also got that Spanish moss growing off of it. But however, the difference is that this one is an angiosperm, whereas these bald cypresses, these are gymnosperms and everything. So as far as, like, you know, lineage goes, these ones go back, way further, probably tens of hundreds of millions further than the angiosperms. Angiosperms are actually relatively recent on the geologic time scale. Yeah, water elm. Co-dominant tree out here in the cypress swamps. Don't get too big. Well, actually, no, there's one way over there that looks really big. Yeah, angiosperm. Swamp adapted angiosperm tree. Here with the dominant gymnosperm. So the spring is underway out here in eastern Texas. And as you can see, like a lot of the, that water elm is starting to do its bud burst. The leaves are starting to pop out, taking advantage of that increased sunlight that happens every spring. But as far as the wildlife goes, I'm kind of curious what we're gonna see. There are alligators in this habitat, but I don't know what chances we're gonna get to actually see one. With that being said, we're probably gonna focus on, other things, other animals that can be found, other even micro ecosystems and everything like that. And one of those micro ecosystems is actually on the trees themselves. The habitat within a tree, or the ecosystem within the outside of a tree on the tree bark, is actually called the rhizodome. So let's see what things can be found on these rhizodomes of these bald cypresses. Okay, so you notice the rhizodome of this tree almost has like these kind of like sheath-like panels of bark stripping off and everything like that. Perfect for providing like little nooks and crannies for a bunch of invertebrates to inhabit. And one of the ones that I noticed right away is this bad baby right here. Now I think, I'm not entirely sure what species this is, but I have a feeling it is in the family Pisaridae, which is the family of fishing spiders, essentially. I think they're closely related to wood spiders. I might be wrong on that, but they are predatory and everything, and they're probably waiting for some sort of like unlucky moth to land right next to it on the tree, or a moth or a fly or some other flying insect or something like that, where it will pounce on it and snatch it up, make a meal for itself. Closer on the eyes. The shadow's too much, I can't really get the eyes, but yeah, you see how big it is. The size of this is properly formidable, pretty sure to scare anybody's girlfriend. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this is Pisaridae. I'll try to ID it and put in the caption. Ooh, and right next to it, ooh. I don't know if y'all can see that. So that right there, that is obviously some sort of orthopteran, or grasshoppers if you don't know what orthoptera is. But I think because I'm looking at the dorsal part of its body right there, see how it has kind of that extension? It almost looks like a longitudinal extension of the pronotum. I think this is in the family Tetragidae. Again, I have no idea what species it is, but it looks pretty cool. We have tetragids out in California too, but they're not this big. This one's about, I want to say like 2.5 centimeters or something like that. Yeah, also making its home here out on the rhizodome of this bald cypress. Yeah, this Tillandsia is kind of nice, huh? But yeah, also on the bases of the trees, we got these things right here. That right there is an exuvium of a dragonfly larvae. Well, that's no longer a larvae, it's actually an adult right now. And we're so lucky as to see right next to it, we have an emerging dragonfly that's emerging from its larval case. Now, I think that this dragon, again, I don't know the species. I'm not familiar with these Texas species and everything. Yeah, so to me, it kind of looks like it's in the family Libellulidae, I believe, or the family of skimmers. I guess that's the common name of the family. But yeah, look at that. So all the dragonflies seem to be emerging right now. There's a bunch of them, and I've seen a bunch of them flying around. So right now, this one that just emerged, is using its heart to essentially to pump that hemolymph all throughout its body, pump it through those costal veins in its wings, so it can harden up, get all nice and rigid, and then go out there and be one of the most successful flying animals and successful predators that the earth has ever seen. Okay, I just pulled one off because it's easier to talk about. So yeah, this is what it looks like in its larval form. So I'm looking at this right now and I'm seeing underneath, and its labial mask, I don't know, the shape of it doesn't quite scream Libellulidae, although I can't really see right now. This might be a gomphid or a clubtail, at least this exuvium right here. I'm not saying that it's the same as that dragonfly we was looking at earlier. I don't know, looking at its labial mask and its antennae, I have a feeling this one right here is some sort of gomphid. Nonetheless, it's an anisopteran odonate, which means it's a dragonfly. So a little on insect physiology, you see those white things out there that kind of looks like pipe tape or something like that? That's actually the remnants of the old tracheal system that this thing had to molt out of. So the tracheal system, you know, they don't have lungs like vertebrates do or anything like that. They actually, and as larvae, they actually breathe through their anal opening, so they can pump water in and out of there, and that's how they can extract oxygen from the water. And they could also like squirt it out really fast so they can jet away, like jet propulsion and everything. But anyway, yeah, so that white stuff right there, that's the exuded portions of its exoskeleton, of the tracheal system of its exoskeleton. So insects, the way they breathe, unlike vertebrates, they have basically little holes on the outside of their bodies that basically lead like kind of like a piping system directly to the organs inside. So every time they molt, they have to molt that tracheal system too, and that's basically the remnants of that you're seeing right there. So this lake system started out natural, essentially, because of an environmental event known as the Great Raft Event, which is actually a series of events that involve earthquakes and downing of a whole bunch of trees. So earthquakes cause these whole mess of trees to kind of fall over and get carried downriver, and then basically create a blockage. And that blockage essentially created the original Caddo Lake. That lake that was created basically provided Native American tribes, local Native American tribes, with all their resources that they needed to survive and proliferate in this type of eco-region. And then came along the United States, in which some overzealous engineering dude named Shreve decided that he wanted to take on the challenge of freeing up that log jam in order to provide navigable waters for you know, river boats to kind of go up, you know, establish the commerce and all that other jazz. Anyway, so he removed that log jam, and apparently it kind of messed everything up. Like the river actually became too shallow for boats to even move, so it kind of destroyed that industry. And then in the early 1900s, they built a dam to basically restore the ecological function of Caddo Lake and what it used to be and everything. And then they renovated that dam in the late 60s, early 70s, and basically it's giving us what we are here out looking at today. So it's not technically natural. It's not really a natural lake. It's actually kind of like semi-natural. Like, it's an ecosystem restored via human engineering and everything like that. And, you know, in my opinion, I'm kind of happy that they did that. You know, like, this swamp system is kind of unique. It is the largest Bald Cypress Swamp ecosystem in the United States. There's nowhere else that's bigger. So yeah, not gonna lie, it's still a privilege to be out here experiencing this stuff, you know.
Okay, I don't know if you can see that right there, but that's at least nice view under the skirt of Corygipsotratus, aka the black vulture. I'm sorry everybody, I think this is the best I can do. There's one flying. That's the white tips on the wings. Yeah, we don't have these in California. It's in the Cathartidae, or the family of New World vultures. And it's basically one of two vultures found in the United States. The other one is Cathartius aura, which is the turkey vulture. But this is not the turkey vulture, this is the black vulture. Smaller vulture, has a smaller tail feathers or smaller rectrices, but also has that classic featherless head, which it uses to not get their feathers all covered in rotting flesh when they're eating their food. Okay, way up there in the trees we have Corvus ossifragus, aka the fish crow, and we are in the most western extent of its range. It's a unique crow species that's pretty much found only in the southeastern United States. It likes these swampy ass habitats too, you know, like you find these a lot in New Orleans. Yeah, Corvidae, so arguably the smartest family of birds in existence. And this is just one of it. It looks exactly like the Corvus americanus, or the American crow, the common crow that you find everywhere. But this one, I believe, is adapted to these swampy habitats and everything. I don't know how physically adapted it is, or physiologically adapted, but yeah, adapted nonetheless. So I guess that's one of the main differences, how you can tell the difference between the two species, the American crow and the fish crow, is the way that they sound. These guys kind of have like a little squeaky toy voice. Anyway, there you go, Corvus ossifragus, fish crow. We have some sort of turtle species. Can't really tell what it is right now. Testudines. See if we can get closer. Ooh, wonder what those are. Some sort of vespid. Definitely a vespid. Some sort of paper wasp, I believe.